They recalled me at 51 because I was the only living officer who still remembered how to read the old Accord protocols without a translator crutch. 26 years out of uniform, running a hydroponics lease on a backwater moon, and the Continuity Corps found me anyway. Farlight Relay 6 needed a voice, they said. Not a fleet, not a negotiator, just a voice that could hold still. The drift was the reason. A dead star's shattered core, tumbling loose from whatever graveyard it had been sleeping in for 100,000 years, now falling toward the shared border of human colony space and the Talvain Concord. Two peoples, one falling rock, and an accord clause nobody had invoked in 3 centuries. The voice bond. Old treaty law, written back when neither side trusted the other enough to share a battle plan, but both sides had agreed that if the sky itself turned hostile, the ranking officer of each side would be bonded, name to name, into unbroken contact until the danger passed. Ceremonial, everyone always said, a formality nobody expected to matter. I was the ranking officer they had left, which is how a man who used to grow tomatoes for a living ended up sitting alone in a relay station with a comm dish the size of a barn, waiting for a queen to answer. She came through on the 3rd day, and the first thing I noticed wasn't her rank, it was how tired her voice sounded. "This is Iset Mora Talvin," she said, reigning queen of the Concord. "I am told I am now legally required to speak with you every day until this is resolved." "Elias Cade," I said. "Continuity Corps, retired, apparently unretired. I'm told the same thing." "Then we understand each other already," she said, and I heard something in it that might have been the beginning of a smile. That was how it started. 2 names bound together by a law neither of us had written, forced into a channel neither of us had asked for. I expected stiffness. I expected the kind of careful diplomatic nothing I remembered from my old postings, all form and no substance. Instead, I got a woman who asked me, on the 2nd week, what tomatoes tasted like, because her homeworld had never grown anything that ripened on a vine. I told her. She told me what starlight looked like refracted through the ice cliffs of her capital, a color she said her language had 11 words for, and mine apparently had none. We traded small things because the big thing, the drift, closing the distance every day, redrawing every evacuation model the analysts fed us, was too large to hold in the hands for long. She had a whole court to keep calm. I had a relay station and a coffee ration, but every night, at the hour the accord clause demanded, it was just her voice and mine, and somewhere in the 3rd month I stopped thinking of it as an obligation. "They keep asking me why I don't sound afraid," she told me once, late, when the relay traffic had thinned, and it was only the 2 of us on the line. "I tell them because someone has to be the calm one. I do not tell them the truth." "What's the truth?" "That I am not afraid when I am speaking to you. I am afraid the rest of the day." I sat with that a long time before I answered her. "Same," I said, "for what it's worth." There were nights the line carried more than words. Once, static from a solar flare ate half our channel, and all I got of her for 3 minutes was breathing and the faint hum of whatever room she was standing in, and I found myself talking anyway, just to keep something of mine reaching towards something of hers, until the signal cleared and she told me she'd heard every word. Another night she sang half a verse of something old in a language her translator wouldn't render, said it was a lullaby her mother used to hum to steady a frightened room, and offered no more of it than that, and I didn't ask for more. I understood by then that with her, the smallest offered thing was worth more than any grand one. Nobody in either government cared whether we liked each other. The accord didn't ask for liking. It asked for contact, unbroken, until the threat was declared resolved. And somewhere along the way, that requirement had turned into the only hour of my day that felt like it mattered. I started keeping a small brass tuning key on my collar, an old analog piece from my first posting, the kind you'd use to true a signal by hand before automation made it obsolete. Useless now. I kept it anyway, and one night I told her why. My first commanding officer had given it to me the week before he died, told me a voice worth hearing was worth the trouble of tuning for. I didn't know why I told her that. I just wanted her to have it, even secondhand, even just as a story. The drift kept closing, 6 weeks out, then 4, then the models stopped agreeing with each other, which is the worst thing models can do. Her outer relay stations began evacuating. Mine did too. And on the day Farlight 6 got its own evacuation order, Every non-essential asset off the border within 72 hours, comm officer included. I looked at the shuttle manifest with my name already typed into it, and I looked at the dish that had carried her voice to me for 4 months, and I understood I wasn't getting on that shuttle. "You cannot stay," she said, when I told her. "The order is clear. There is nothing left for you to do at that station once it goes dark." "There's you," I said. "The bond doesn't end, because a shuttle schedule says it should. Far as I can tell, it ends when the danger's declared over. Nobody's declared anything yet. Elias, my name, in her voice, had never once sounded like a formality. It didn't now, either. You are one man with a small ship and no fleet behind you. I am a queen, with an entire evacuation to run. This is not a rescue you can make." "I'm not making a rescue," I told her. "I'm making a delivery. I've got a tuning key that belongs somewhere better than my collar, and an accord clause that says I'm bound to your voice until this is over. I intend to be bound to more than your voice when it is." She didn't have an answer for that. For the first time since the third day, the queen of the Talvain Concorde went quiet on an open line. I took the relay station's last courier skiff, small, unarmed, exactly the kind of vessel nobody expects to matter, and I flew it toward a border that every strategic model told me to run from. 3 days through drift debris and panic-choked lanes, running the old accord clause like a passcode at every checkpoint that tried to turn me back, until I put that skiff down on a landing pad outside her capital's ice cliffs with 40 hours left before the drift's closest approach. Her aide of state, an old soldier named Corivus, who had served 3 monarchs, met me on the pad with a face like carved stone and didn't say a word. Just looked at the tuning key on my collar, looked at the skiff with the continuity core markings still bleeding paint from the debris field, and stepped aside. She was waiting past him, in a coat too plain for a queen, hair unbound the way I'd never once seen even on the relay's grainy visual feed. Up close, her eyes were the color of struck copper, and they were doing everything her voice on the line never had, showing me exactly how afraid she'd been, every day, the whole time she'd told me otherwise. "You were not supposed to come," she said. "I know," I said. "I came anyway, voice bond or not." I unpinned the tuning key and put it in her hand, closed her fingers over it, the way my old commander had done for me, 26 years and a lifetime ago. "A voice worth hearing," I told her, "is worth the trouble of coming for." The drift broke apart 11 hours later, torn loose by the Concorde's outer defense grid into pieces small enough to burn harmless against both our atmospheres. The danger was declared over at 0340 station time. Corivus logged it personally, and beneath the resolution notice, in the old formal accord language neither government had used in 3 centuries, he entered a second line. The bond, having been maintained unbroken through the full duration of the threat, was hereby recognized as formalized between the 2 named parties, effective immediately, by the Queen's own request. She read it over my shoulder and didn't take her hand off mine. "The law only ever asked for contact," she said. "It never once asked for this. You gave it that yourself." "So did you," I said. "Every single night you didn't have to answer." Outside, the last fragments of a 100,000-year-old star burned harmlessly out over her ice cliffs, and for the first time in 4 months, neither of us had anywhere else we needed to be.